Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all our viewers from across the globe. My name is Zina Teresa Khan, heading the Outreach Working Group at European Network for Academic Integrity, or ENAI. I have the absolute pleasure to welcome you back to the second Around the Globe in 30 podcast episode. As a community of passionate researchers, academics, and professionals, we are an amazing collective point of expertise and resources that we can use to support the greater community of educators and students around the world. The motivation behind forming this working group was to actually develop a support system through outreach activities targeting individuals, institutions, and students beyond the Western world. As part of these efforts, we are excited to bring you this Vodcast series to bring to the forefront the extraordinary efforts and research being done in and around academic integrity from regions such as Africa, South Asia, Southeast Asia, Far East, and so on. The aim of the podcast is to create an ENAI Human Library. Human Library is a concept that was actually originated in Denmark in 2000 and basically means a library of humans as stories, unbiased, unjudged. So our nominees agree to become part of the library as books who can be borrowed once a year, perhaps, to collaborate on a project or give a guest talk, etc. At any time after the first year, they're able to drop in an email and remove themselves from the borrow shelf if they wish. We believe this initiative will allow our community to hear from external communities, which will enrich the experience of our members, give members ideas on research areas, possible collaboration opportunities, and so much more. And of course, encourage persons and campuses to become members of NI in the future. With this, I have the absolute pleasure to introduce our guests of the podcast, the Institute for Stem Cell Science and Regenerative Medicine, India's first dedicated institute for stem cell research. Our guest today is Dr. Shobuj Bhattacharya, a scientist and research ethics officer at INSTEM, receiving training in ecology, population genomics, and research ethics during his PhD and postdoctoral tenures. His work focuses on understanding the impact of environmental change on mountain biodiversity using interdisciplinary tools. What's all the more fascinating for us is Dr. Shobuj coordinates courses on research and publication ethics and science communication, aiming at fostering ethical research practices and effective science communication among doctoral students, which aligns with their syllabus standards. Welcome, Shobuj. Kindly tell us a bit about yourself and your course to this podcast.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the kind introduction. So, as you already indicated to our viewers, that I'm trained as a wildlife biologist for my PhD and postdoc. So, I worked in Himalaya and Rocky Mountains and in Peak District in England with the help of various different kind of fellowships. And then I worked as a science facilitator with the DBT Wellcome Trust India Alliance, where my primary job was to design fellowship and facilitate science to the scientists. And during my PhD, postdoc, as well as a job as a grant advisor, every time I had to be very mindful about ethical practices,
Mm,
be it how you write your manuscripts or how you conduct, or even you apply for a grant, you have to mindful about different kind of regulatory compliances as well as academic integrity.
mm,
So at INSTEM, which is Institute for Stem Cell Science and Regenerative Medicine, I joined as a scientist and faculty in 2022. And that is the first time somebody is appointed by Government of India with this dedicated post.
wow.
And this particular institute is also embedded in Bangalore Life Science Cluster, which have other three institutes, sister institute, National Center for Biological Sciences, CCAMP, and Tata Institute for Genetic and Society. So when I joined here, I actually built the research integrity office from scratch, which was a kind of challenge, but then it was a very exciting journey because I have wonderful colleagues across these four institutes who helped me to
Mm,
finalize what is the need. And one of the such sphere for the functioning of this particular office is to do capacity building. And to do that, I created the syllabus. So we followed University Grants Commission, which mandated 2 credit course to teach students. So I designed that. I added some new elements to it. We'll talk more about it very soon. And then I also do, for example, I try to understand gaps and challenges in academic integrity. So that's the primary area of my work.
Mm.
Teaching, doing a little bit of administration, plus also doing research on academic integrity. But my area of focus is always life sciences, so which I am
Fantastic.
trained. Yeah.
I think it's quite fascinating what you said. Like this is the first position, something that the government of India itself has, supported, and it's backing that position. What was your kind of, inspiration to get into this? Was it just your doctoral experience or anything more?
Yeah, sure. Because I was always search for something where I can get connected with academic life, where it involves teaching, doing research, so I can use my gray matter differently than just being administrator. That's a different kind of challenges, though, when you are
Right.
administrator. But then when I see this particular job, and initially somebody else actually asked me what a research ethics officer does, and I didn't knew about this job. So I was helping other people and then realized I really like the job description because I know only very few privileged Indians have the opportunity to study in India, split their study in US or in UK, so that you're training multiple people. And if I go back and come back in India and join the academic this community, I can give more. I can build up something new which have a larger implication. So
Right.
when even during my interviews, I have different kind of questions regarding how I'm going to do it. Of course, I knew few of it because in US you have to go through the training. In India, when I did my PhD, it is not mandatory, but then there it is embedded with research methodology course.
Of
It is not
course.
a dedicated research integrity course. At the moment, it is become separated from the research methodology,
Right.
where people learn about something else, but ethics become also in the forefront of the teaching
Right.
pedagogy. So I realized that it will be very exciting to join something and build something from scratch which does not exist for the country.
Exactly. It's really amazing what you have managed to achieve. What kind of, if at all, what kind of pushback did you get in trying to remove this and make it an independent course?
Yeah, so one thing was people are not, my advice, I'm saying people in the sense, guideline which I had, University Grants Commission, UGC's guideline, which says these are the topics. But then when I looked at the topics, because they have to cater a very large set of multidisciplinary system. But then
Right.
there are certain things which need to add, which is specific to my institute. For example, that particular guideline do not ask you to teach about animal ethics or human ethics. Here
Right.
we work on stem cells. So definitely I have to add animal and human ethics under the purview of these ethical guideline umbrella, which is very, very needed for my student. It might not be so relevant for an engineering background where they do not work. So that was something which I need to initially little tweak a little bit sometimes, and also a large extent now, except the fact that now I am part of ENAI, and I'm really, really fortunate to be part of it because I can reach out to multiple such people who are research ethics and integrity officer or the professional. But in 2020, I didn't knew about ENAI. So
Hmm.
what I did, I wrote to people. So I have an Excel sheet with the people I really want to know who are doing great in research ethics and integrity, and they're so kind across the globe. So I reach out to them. We fix the meeting with each of these particular person, and they tell us how they teach, what kind of software they use, for example, for plagiarism, for image integrity, different kind of things which I did not know. Those are
Hmm.
challenges. I overcome those because I got help from a larger community which is global in nature. Then we
Fantastic.
had little bit challenges regarding resources because
Hmm.
money is always limited.
Always a problem.
Fortunately, I am in a campus which where resource gets shared. So four institutes share the resources, so I can use different kind of cutting edge technology. For example, we use it's called Proofit, image checking software, where if there is any change or cloning in the within done with malintent or sometimes by mistake, we actually can run and check it. So that's the first time in India. We're the only institute in India who is doing it. We started in 2022, but that also required money. So the challenge
Right.
was money, and we figure out the challenge because we build this office as a common office for four institutes.
I see. So at the moment, from what I'm understanding, your subject has been offered to doctoral students in these four institutions or from any institution across India.
Yes, so primarily, so initially it was only for our institute, or this four institute rather, in the campus. But then what happens, people heard it. So I get so many of requests. So to the student want to join. The problem is we teach 2 credit course, which is 22 hours. So student and twice a week this course happens. So students who are around Bangalore, actually they join. Now we came up with a structure that in January semester, we primarily cater to the students from this four institute so
Hmm.
that in August semester, so we have more space for students who are from Bangalore, but they still can come. Because here in this particular course, I do not give them any final exam. Everything is in the class. But if my class size is very big,
Big.
it's very difficult to manage and as well as do group activities. So people
Absolutely.
do that. Also, we often receive requests for other institute. For example, Tata Institute for Fundamental Research, Bombay, Tata Medical Center, where primarily everybody works on cancers, or Wildlife Institute, Salim Ali Ornithological Institute. So either I go there in person and do a workshop mode teaching along with their teachers. So we generally have this common meeting multiple times before the workshop. So we divide our topics, something they teach, which requires subjective knowledge, and which is little generalistic life science, so which I teach, or we do it online. So it's
Right.
not only for our institute, but also the Institute of Stem Cell Science believe in capacity building of an ecosystem. So that's why we are like try to capture as many number of institute and student and teachers as possible.
Fantastic. I mean, what you're saying, I mean, it's so tremendous in size what you are managing to achieve. Tell me a little bit about the course itself, the kind of
Okay.
topics that you're teaching, the kind of
Yeah.
activities that you do in
Yeah.
class, and the kind of engagement that you get from the students.
Yeah. So I think I am also evolving as a teacher when teaching this particular course. Okay. So when I started in 2022, so primarily the course starts with a basic idea of what is research misconduct and why we should care about it and how it can affect any scientist or researcher's career. And where we are not being very preachy about it, rather, I try to showcase studies which exactly say if you even associated with research misconduct, you might get 10% of this citation. Now, citation is linked with the fact that there are less amount of trust about regarding the information you generate. So that is the
Hmm.
day one or the first class. And then they have activities. So we provide them different case studies. And primarily, I ask them if I give you hypothetically in the same situation, what the correct thing you are going to do. So
Right,
that's put the students in a very different perspective that they are thinking that what not to do.
right.
Then we have a specific class for plagiarism, where also I'm very thankful to ENAI, to you and Sonia, who actually generated that Age of Integrity game. So we use those games also as a part of the plagiarism class. So in plagiarism class, we talk about plagiarism happening student level, plagiarism happens at editor of a journal level, plagiarism happen at the vice chancellor and big level to indicate the fact plagiarism happen in multi different kind of
Yes.
stature. So just to make them understand different kind of plagiarism, we have quizzes in the classes, so people participate in that. After that, we also do have conflict of interest because often the idea of conflict of interest is not so clear, and we talk about it how it matters when you're writing a publication, how it matters when you're applying for a grant, and why it is so important to declare the conflict of interest. Even you are not sure that there is might be a conflict of interest, declare it. We also do have data management, research data management class where we talk about how you name your files. Because often what
Wow.
I heard from my colleagues that everybody name their files as doc1, doc2, or excel1,
Yes.
excel2, taste1, taste2, and it makes everybody really uncomfortable. Why it is so important to create a naming convention, how many times you have to save, how you do version control, and student in the class, they actually prepare their own research data management plan for their PhD.
Wow.
We also talk about authorship. What
Mm,
creates conflicts in authorship? We showed the international international nomenclature for authorship, especially
right.
in life sciences, because it changes
Yeah.
depend on your sphere of studies or
Correct.
science.
Correct.
So we do that. We also do some kind of activities. So I give them real life case studies, of course, anonymized, where people actually involved in some kind of conflict, and students participate and suggest how they can resolve those authorship disputes. And then I tell them how in real life people resolve it.
Wow. I think it's a very extensive course that you have developed. How long does it take to deliver the whole
Two
course?
months,
2 months. Wow. So it's an
2 months,
intensive
twice a
course.
week. Twice a
Twice
week. Each class is 90 minutes.
90 minutes. Okay. And as you had mentioned, it's doctoral, so they're quite matured, of course, coming into the course itself. So
Yes,
that must
but the
help you
students come
speed
from
up
various different background. So the thing
backgrounds.
is, even though I work in a stem cell research institute, when I go and teach, I have students coming from ecology evolution, from biochemistry, from structural biology, crystallography, biophysics. I do have students from mathematical background. So sometimes it is really challenging. So I generally ask them in the class itself, first day, what is their background, so that I try to give examples so that they relate to it.
Right. Okay. As our guests may have seen, we also have another guest waiting eagerly to be a part of this conversation. So, along with Dr. Shobuj, we also have a student from his class, an ex-student, Sanjana Malik, with a master's in biotechnology from St. Xavier's College, Kolkata, who conducted research on long non-coding RNAs linked to Huntington's disease. Sanjana is currently pursuing a doctoral at INSTEM. Sanjana, welcome to this conversation. I understand that you have already done this course with Dr. Shobuj. So we really want to hear from you as a research student, somebody who's pursuing your doctoral thesis. What was the importance of a course like this in your experience? Before that, just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're currently doing, and then we can move into the course.
Thank you, ma'am, for letting me a part of this. I joined INSTEM, Institute for Stem Cell Science and Regenerative Medicine, at Dr. Sudarshan Gadadhar's laboratory in 2022. So we work here primarily on cell biology in tubulin post-translational modifications. So we want to check how different post-translational modifications are affecting how the cell functions overall.
Right.
So while taking this course, before actually taking this course, I had no idea about uh, so much of research misconduct that takes place around across the globe that I should mention. So and for me in my lab, I particularly have too many uh, microscopy images and all which I need to edit and then get it to the level of publication. So while I was taking the course, it was during Shobuj's lectures only I got to know that there are image falsifications and fabrications that take place extensively.
Mm,
So over there, I got to know how people do it and also how those are getting detected also. So
right.
he taught us that how what we should not be doing. Even if we are doing something unknowingly, it is high time that we realize that this these are types of misconducts and we should not be doing all these things.
Right.
And it was an overall growth for all of us. For we got to know what scientific integrity means, what research means as a whole. It's just not getting data and getting published. It's like it's a growth that will take place throughout the 5 years, and we have to know
Right.
what should not be done during these courses just to get something published. So we took all
Right.
these classes and we got to know what how authorships are determined and what criteria is there to be declared as a first author. And whenever we used to go through research articles, at the end we always used to see there is one declaration on conflicts of interest mentioning that the authors declare no conflicts of interest. So we got to know how important a role that plays over there. It's like we always see that there is no conflict of interest, and we had this question why at all this is mentioned at the end of every paper that we go through. But then when Shobuj gave us all the lectures and he showed us all the case studies, we got to know how important those things are while we are
Right.
thinking of getting published.
So it sounds like there was, in fact, a lot of areas that you guys got introduced to that really is helping you as a doctoral student and hopefully in the future as an early research career. Prior to coming to this course, what kind of research experience did you have before starting, let's say, your doctoral degree?
Before joining INSTEM, honestly, I did not have much of a research experience because we are from that COVID batch. So we did
Oh,
not get much
yes.
time to explore any labs or so. So whatever experiences we had mostly were computational. And also over there, we had seniors who were kind of supervising us, but no one actually sat with us to make us realize what data falsification, fabrication, and plagiarism means.
Right.
So all these things have just begun after we joined INSTEM and we got enrolled for the course. So we were
Right.
just acquainted with the terms and we knew that we should not be copying pasting from some sources. That's
Yes.
all that was the idea that we had.
Yes.
So mostly our research experience was not was nil, we could say. But after coming over here, we have started doing
Right.
everything.
Okay. Do you think the positive impact that you're feeling from the course, for instance, what you said about conflict of interest or about data falsification, image falsification, do you think the classmates that you had around you had similar reaction to these courses and the topics that were being taught? What were the kind of
Okay, so
discussions that you were
sometimes
having with your classmates?
sometimes we were divided in opinion. Sometimes we
Oh,
were
nice.
we were unified also. So the thing, the way of resolving certain conflicts were different for us. It was different for the others who were participating in the same group discussion per se. So whenever we were talking about authorship conflicts and also sometimes people were of the opinion that if someone has taught you one technique and which is one of the most pivotal techniques that you're using throughout the paper, that person should get an authorship. But
Mm,
sometimes we were of that opinion that maybe not. We are because uh, that someone could have just taught us, and either way we had to learn that technique, and ultimately we would have gone forward. So sometimes we were unified, sometimes we were divided, but somehow Shobuj made us realize where to end. Shobuj unified all of us.
oh my God, amazing. Shobhuz, I'm going to come back to you at this point. From what Sanjana has said, and you've mentioned this as well when you were talking previously about the diversity of students that come into your class. So, what are some of the things that you really look at in order to unify or bring everybody into the same platform to begin with, and then building on that knowledge and practice?
Yeah, primarily what I look at is my students' body language. So because I do have in one class student who attended a class after 31 years. And then I really have students who just finish undergrad, postgrad, immediate PhD. So they are 24-year-old. So I have often diverse group of students. So primarily, even my feedback form also talk about respect in the class. So
Right.
what I discussed in the first lecture is the honor code. I set the expectation very clearly that this is the way I am going to evaluate your learning, and this is the way I am deducting your marks. So, say expectation is very, very set. We believe in transparency. So that's why it was very easy for me and easy for them to actually understand what is expected out of them. And also, I asked them why they are there in the first place. So then
Mm,
it's a expectation sharing from the both. And
right.
gradually in the class, I acknowledge the fact some people are not very well versed with the language English because they have a different mother tongue. Some people are introverts, some people are overly extrovert. So that I learned when I am in the class that some people always raise their hand. And the moment I see their hand, of course, I want to know their opinion. But then gradually I realize that some people takes uh, their opinion so overpowering. So I'm not hearing the other voices.
Other voices.
So then I consciously, of course, allow them who raise their hands to give you opportunity. But then probably I try to pick somebody who I look like, if I feel that they might be interested to say something. So I ask them to share first and then try to have a common platform where they share their information. And that's why what Sanjana is saying, in my class, there are a lot of different kind of opinion sharing because a lot of people not necessarily agree what they say each other, but
Mhm.
then we maintain a common ground of respect. We also
Right.
talk about how you treat your colleagues in one of the lecture, was the last lecture, where people share how they have been discriminated at workplace, even though it's not exactly like research ethics, but it comes under purview of research culture.
Correct.
And where we start with the point that do not mention people's name because you are sharing your part of the story. We are eager to know your story. And also, when you're hearing your classmate story, do not go out of this particular room and share that, because be mindful that information can be transferred as a gossip where people can be affected differently.
Right.
So this set of expectation probably help us to all be in the kind of the same platform.
Right. And that's so important. And what you said so rightly, because it also goes to talk about professional conduct, right? Like how we eventually will treat our authors, co-authors. Maybe eventually we will, the students will become supervisors and how they will deal with their students. Sanjana, just coming back to you on this, beyond the subject now, what you have learned, how are you seeing that impacting how you see research, how you conduct research, and how you are conducting yourself as a researcher with others around you?
So now I kind of have a concrete idea of what plagiarism and falsification, fabrication looks like, what types of conflicts I might be facing before publication, and so now whatever steps I'm taking, it's a bit more thoughtful now. So at Instem only we have all the examinations for the PhD registration and stuff. So over there we are asked to submit review articles, something that is related to our research. So while
Right.
we were writing the reviews, also this plagiarism played a major role, because now we know how we can uh, cite someone's work. How what is the appropriate method of paraphrasing and citing and mentioning whatever they have done. And so this is playing a major role. We also got to know whenever we are taking certain images and putting it in our presentation, how it should be made proper. Either we make our own images and put it, or we even acknowledge that it is from their idea that we are trying to create our own image.
Oh,
So all these things have now come into play. We got to know that plagiarism is not just directly copying and pasting, but also there are various types of plagiarism where we are just paraphrasing and we are not maybe citing the
writing.
author only who has given that statement beforehand before us.
Right.
So we are now kind of a bit more we got to know all these things just because we got took the course, and now we take much more careful steps.
Fantastic. I think Sanjana is such a kudos to your effort, Shobhuj. Just finally, Shobhuj, you mentioned you touched upon how you've been able to use a lot of the NI resources like the games, the UW Age of Integrity games and stuff. How has that featured into the interactiveness or the impact that you're having on the students?
Yeah, so we use primarily the age of integrity, that game, for example, and that makes people understand. So, because plagiarism is a concept, so I do have class quizzes which I collected from information from different US universities. But the moment they play, immediately everybody is very engaged. So, for
Right.
example, I generally select one student to come, which was Sanjana and some of our classmates in their class. So, go to the screen and they generally read out. And remember one of the game where you have to arrange things. So, now
Right.
Sanjana will read out, for example, some things and they have to drag, but then it's a collective decision. And while making the decision, people are having conflict.
Ah,
So they're saying, "Oh no, I don't believe it's go there," and but then each of these conflict make them think that
correct.
okay, what is the best? Why I think it is the most suitable one and not suitable one.
Right.
So that increases our interaction within the
Interaction.
students as well
Right.
as interaction with the subject.
Right. So, just coming back to you, Sanjana, because Shobhuj mentioned you, what was that experience like actually using a game or gamification in your doctoral studies?
It was really nice. So that day we did not expect that that class is going to be so much engaging and entertaining also. So when he was calling each one of us, as he actually mentioned, we all have had our own opinions, and we were not at all unified in saying that what is correct and what is not. But over there, we had to give him some answer. So there was some sort of compromises from each of us, and ultimately we got to know what is the correct one. I think that was really a very innovative way of engaging everyone in the class, and we got to know
Fantastic.
everything from the very basics.
That's amazing. We are almost out of time, just 30 seconds. First, Sanjana, any last thoughts in 30 seconds you'd like to share with us?
So this course was really one of the landmarks, and I, whoever is there in Bangalore, if it is possible, just come and enroll for the course. It will be an overall growth for you. You will get to know so many things which you have not even heard of before, or even if you have heard, there are certain other instances also which will be an eye opener to all of you. So it was really a very good course for all of us, and I would really encourage everyone.
Fantastic. Shobuj, now to you to conclude. Any
Yeah,
last thoughts?
so mine would be probably we with the office, research integrity office, and with the ecosystem. I look forward for, say, people often get asked in say 5 years what you see. So I see probably more collaboration within India as well as across global north and south, more collaboration, so that we can create a more mindful ecosystem where people take decision more mindfully. So irrespective of the what decision, so that we have less number of retractions,
Right.
we have less number of or less instances of mistrust in the research ecosystem. So that's
Fantastic.
my
And
wish.
that's a fantastic conclusion. With that, we of course come to the end of our second Around the Globe in 30 podcast. We do hope our audience gain insights into the power of creating such amazing spaces to enrich doctoral students' ethical awareness in research. What more so, I think the kind of practices that you are bringing into the classroom, Shobuj, the kind of topics that you have really researched, the way you have made the effort to connect globally to bring those into your classroom for the collective purpose of enriching researchers' experiences in India, I think it's really commendable and it's really works as an inspirational example. And we are so happy that you guys were a part of our podcast in this episode. I take this opportunity to once again thank INSTEM for joining me, Zinat Reza Khan, in this conversation.